I will be showing how to make 8 embroidery stitches, and I'm going to start off with the back stitch. Bring the needle up from the back to the front and then back down. Now this is the size of a rice, about the size of rice. Then I bring it back up, but keeping a distance, that small gap, and then I bring it back down on the previous stitch point that I made, and it's going to look like this. So I repeat that process until arriving to the length that I want, and it's constantly doing that, going up and down, creating a gap, and then returning to the previous point that you made the previous stitch to create the back stitch. Next up is the chain stitch. This one is really nice for words, and it's the same process, only that you're going to bring the needle from the back to the front, and then you're going to return the needle back down, but you want to make sure your needle goes inside the loop. So you're not going all the way through, you're keeping a loop there, and with your thumb you're going to hold it down to get the distance that you want. Depending on the distance of your loop, that's going to show up and determine the size of your stitch and the look of it. So if you get too close, it's going to become a small chain stitch. If you go very far, it's going to become a long chain stitch, and it's going to look like this. Okay, now the running stitch. This running stitch is one of the easiest. Depending on the needle and thread, this is actually really great for basting fabric. And what you want to do is that you want to bring your needle up and down, leaving a gap. So this gap is not like the back stitch where we go back to fill it in. No, we leave it open and empty because it's running and it reminds me of the street. Okay, so now the blanket stitch. This one is great to clean edges. I've used it in the past for patches to clean the edges. And what you want to do is almost like a triangle. There are 3 points. You're going to have the first point, which is the one that I started with. Then you're going to go up, create the second point. You're going to bring the needle up on the third point that is in the same line as point 1. You're going to hold the loop, because then you're going to go over this loop, and that's it. You're going to repeat the same process to get that result. So you go from point 1, 2, and 3, and you create the blanket stitch. Of course, it's going to be influenced by the edge that you're cleaning. Normally this is used for edges. Now the lacy daisy. This one is one of my favorites because it's so cute, and I love it for flowers. And it's pretty much, you bring the needle up, then you return to the original point, but you want to hold the loop, and then this loop you're going to go bring the needle up based on the length that you want the loop to be. You're going to bring it up, create a small stitch just like this, that's going to lock it in. By locking in the loop, it's not going to move, and it's going to create the leaves that you want in order to create the lacy daisy. Every time I say daisy, I think of peach and daisy. Now the French knot. This one is so cute to make sheeps with, and what you do is you're going to bring the needle up from the back. You're going to wind it over your needle 3 times. You're going to return the needle back down, creating a coil. This coil, you're going to pull down the thread slowly. Make sure to use the thumb from your other hand to create a bit of tension, and that's how you create the French knot. Now, the woven wheel is great to create roses, clementines, oranges, and you want to create 5 stitches. The length will determine the size of the wheel, so keep that in mind. And it's going to look like this. Very similar. You go up and down, returning the last point of your stitch to the center point, and then you're going to start weaving. So when you weave, you go up and down, up and down. You want to make sure you get the pattern right, so take your time when doing this and pulling it in. It does take up a lot of embroidery floss, so you want to make sure you're using a long strand for this, because you're going to go around all the way until you don't see those stitches anymore, and it's going to have this look. Last up is the split stitch. This one is one of my favorites for creating stems, for going over words, and it's similar to the back stitch, only that you're splitting the stitch. So you're bringing the needle up from the middle of your previous stitch and then going back down. You bring it up from the middle and going back down, going up from the middle and going back down, and you want to make sure that you go even. if you don't go even right in the middle of the stitch, some of the threads will look thinner than the others and it won't be a consistent finish. Other than that, this is the final result. These are the 8 embroidery stitches that you can get started learning to start embroidering your clothes, repairing them, and using these decorative stitches to upcycle and get creative, making your own fashion con sazón. Here in this Star Squad, we are the sun. We are not shadows, we lead. Creating style with kindness.